Hey, you're listening to Cracking the Code, the podcast for leaders building and growing service-based businesses. If you are in legal or medical or financial services, if you have letters behind your name that qualify you to do what you do for a living, you are in the right place. I am your host, Rob Riggs, here to bring you intel and access that are designed to decode how technology can be and should be impacting your growth. All right, let's get into it. All right, welcome back. Today we are talking about something that should terrify every business owner listening to this, your AI shadow. And today's guest is Adam uh, Hamadache. So founder of Formula Digital Growth Agency that has been around for more than 10 years, dominating the hotel sector, but with experience that goes beyond. Adam, thanks so much for being on the show. Why don't you take a second to tell the audience who you are, if they're not familiar?
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me, Rob. So yeah, I launched a company called Formula some 14 years ago, which makes me feel very old. So we're,
Sure.
we're we're a sort of specialist digital growth agency for hospitality. So we're based in just outside of London in the UK, but we work across three continents. And we've built our agency up to offer, you know, we call it digital growth. You've got lots of different phrases: digital marketing, is it SEO, is it PPC?
Right.
Fundamentally, what my experience is that, we want to avoid talking about the sort of the vanity metrics of, hey, great, my impressions grew loads this month. That must
Mhm.
mean we're growing. Actually, no, revenue isn't. So we kind of distill everything back down to the metrics that matter. And so for our sector in hotels, we the likes of online travel agents like Booking.com and Expedia charge such ridiculously large commission fees. So, really where we drive the biggest growth for our clients is helping hotels not spend 20% to Booking.com and attract those customers direct. So that's kind of the main bulk of what we do.
Sure. Okay. So then, not looking at vanity metrics, the key thing you're looking at for a hotel is rooms booked, I imagine. Um,
Rooms booked and direct bookings, and also, if they've got a big weddings or events business, inquiries can, wedding inquiries could be, a single inquiry could be five figures right there when you add in all of the extra fees, the rooms, the food and beverage, etc. So yeah, depending on what the objective is.
right. Do you get into profitability then at some point, rather than just booking single to single? If you look at a 20 room block, that's obviously a lot more profitable, right? Than a single room.
Yeah, I mean, no is probably the short answer.
Sure.
We rely on the clients to know their margins. I think,
Yeah.
it's a really interesting point because often when companies invest in marketing, um, especially if they're stretching to afford an agency, they often want kind of miracles. And I think,
Yeah.
it's really important that you've got to have the right business model in place. So, we can only drive. Um, Engagement and bookings. If it's not working down to good bottom line numbers, I think that's a fundamental issue with the business model that kind of goes beyond our scope.
Fair, fair. I know we're going to get to AI, but it's parallel, right? If you just throw
Yeah.
more volume at AI, you're going to get more junk back, and it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
We're really similar in that we do some performance marketing, but the key thing we're starting at from a service-based business is where are your most profitable services. And that's what we want to start because we want some
Yeah.
easy and quick wins in the beginning, and then we kind of reach to broaden out. So I imagine you take kind of a similar approach. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, do you want to talk through that a sec?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, obviously looking at where the most profitable options are certainly is part of the strategic conversation. But I think, that maybe it's going a little bit off piste, but I think, it's really important that, the best working relationships are when it's a partnership and the client is really clear about what they're trying to achieve, not just we need more, go. It's like, okay, this is where we think we need help. And then really what you want to come in as the agency is say, okay, yeah, I think we can see that we've got some issues around this because of A, Y, X, Y, and Z. Um, But it's a collaborative conversation that always yields the best results, and I think that's probably fair across all industries.
Sure. Okay. Very good. Can you talk us through the AI shadow that you talk about pretty frequently?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I sort of, I can't say I coined this term. It's my head of SEO that did it, and she came in one day and she said, it's this thing that's happening. It's like an AI shadow, and I was like, yeah, that's good. Okay, let's lean in
Sure.
on that. So really, what it is, it's kind of, if you consider that for years, 15 years, let's call it, brands have worked at owning digital assets. So we've
Okay.
built websites and we've worked really hard on getting our websites most beautifully presented so that it gives us in the best possible light when customers are looking. We've worked really hard at curating our social feeds, and we, in certain industries, we optimize our aggregator listings. Obviously, in hotels, that's obviously the likes of Booking.com. So, but there are aggregators across industries. These are sort of owned digital assets that we've got influence over. And so these
Right.
digital assets that we've, optimized and built and curated are there to basically get our name out there and encourage people to come and do business with us, whatever it is that you're selling. An AI shadow is kind of getting right in the way of all this. It's a sort of inherited digital asset that we neither wanted nor have a great deal of influence over, certainly not initially. And it's sort of AI's interpretation of your brand. So what do I mean by this? It's whenever you Google anything or whenever you search anything, I should say, these days, um,
Yeah.
whether it be searching for your brand name or it's a more generic brand, sorry, a generic search, like I'm looking for hotels in New York. Increasingly, what customers are seeing is not oh, here's the website, go and have a look. It's AI's interpretation of what it thinks that you are searching for. And that could be ChatGPT, that could be Google's AI mode, that could be Perplexity, choose your
Sure.
platform. And really, this AI shadow to sort of distill its sort of definition is a combination of the unique selling points of the product or the brand, your online reputation, and almost like an impartial critique, as if you were a restaurant and a food critic has visited your establishment and giving a view of whether or not it cuts it meets the grade. And
Sure.
so this AI shadow can take many forms. It could be a one or two sentence summary that summarizes what the brand is all about, or it could be a much more sort of in-depth pros and cons list of everything that's great about this product or brand and everything that's not so great. And so why this is so important is that customers, irrespective of whether they're, looking for a restaurant for Saturday night or whether they're looking for a new car, they are seeing the AI shadow of whatever that product is long before they visit the website. And so ultimately, this is now this digital asset that we neither wanted nor have a great deal of influence over is now the first touch point, the first meaningful touch point that we're introducing our brands to customers. And this is why I think it's so important to talk about.
Right. And what we've seen over the past in the 21st century so far, since the advent, really the past 20 years, I'd say,
Mm.
the advent of the iPhone, that sort of thing, is people are getting bombarded with more and more ads. So at the turn of the century, you used the marketing adage was that it takes 7 impressions to get somebody from the first experience
Yeah,
to buying, right? To
yeah,
the trust and all of that. And we've seen that increase to over 30 impressions required now. And now we're losing control over somebody's first experience with us because of the AI overview. We've seen kind of 60% drop in organic traffic in favor of AI.
yeah.
So this is what we're talking about here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes with exactly what you said, Rob. We are the stat right now is 60% of all searches on a traditional search engine end in zero click.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
that goes down enormously when there's an AI overview on show on Google, of which AI overviews right now, as of the time of recording, it will probably be different tomorrow, but at the moment it's about 25%.
Yeah.
So, it's it's first of all, it's are you even recommended? Are you even, being presented? And does your AI shadow give you, present you in the most favorable way possible? And I was on stage a couple of weeks ago in London talking about this to a bunch of people in my industry, and I gave an example of a wonderful, like really expensive sushi restaurant in Mayfair in London, one of the top sort of London restaurants, and I asked it. I said, "Look, I'm looking for the best sushi in London. Where should I go?" This one came up, and I then said, "Okay, that sounds interesting. Is it worth the money?" And it sort of gives me this pros and cons list of, okay, well, it's great. They use a special type of ingredient that they import from Japan, and all of these wonderful things, as you can imagine, from one of these top
Yeah.
restaurants. But then it told me in quite intricate detail that it's lost its Michelin star and why it lost it,
Mm.
and how customers are starting to say, well, it's lost its some of its shine, and
Yeah.
when you're spending, what I guess $500-$600 a head to have the best sushi in town, you really need it
Right.
to be really,
Yeah.
really exceptional. So I think that was a good example of how you know for all the work that this arguably this London Mayfair restaurant has done to manage its online reputation, it's being presented in an unfavorable way, perhaps even without it knowing. And I think that's the kind of
Yeah.
the big crux point that we have in the industry today.
It's yeah, we're seeing similar things, and it's really important for an organization to understand kind of how they're showing up.
Yeah,
And I assume this is part of what somebody would get when they're running through your score plan tool.
yeah,
But these are things that we look at too on a regular basis for our clients, because it's increasingly important. And then, looking forward into the future when agentic is really available to the common user, the future, the signs are pointing toward a clickless, purchase, make reservations
yeah,
based on the AI overview, right?
yeah.
So how do you recognize and how do you kind of how do you recognize the problem? How do you resolve it, and so that people are, because if you're not showing up in the overview, you're just losing a seat at the table, regardless of how good you are, right? So how do businesses get there?
Well, I think you sort of touched on it. That's why we developed our own platform called
Mm.
Score Plan, and we
Yeah,
basically the easy way to explain it is AI sentiment tracking. You got to know the good and the bad stuff that's being said about you, so that you can have an influence. And I've sort of touched on this in my previous answers. Initially, you have no influence. All of a sudden, AI dominates search, as it
yeah,
has in such a short amount of time, and brands are now starting to understand the good and the bad about what is being said about them. So you don't have influence initially, but you can influence over time. And so making sure that your online reputation is one of it sort of carries more weight than it ever did. And obviously that's more relevant for some industries than others, but certainly for professional service firms, having really solid online reputation is now integral, because people don't generally, I don't think, review professional services firms in the same way that perhaps they do hotels or restaurants, like on TripAdvisor. But
sure.
certainly a negative, I mean, obviously, running a professional service firm, if you ever
Yeah.
get a negative review, that's sort of working against you, but in terms of your ability to acquire new customers. But it's
Hmm.
also because of the way that AI is interpreting all of the data on the internet about your business, it's sort of working against you like never before. So making sure that you've got a really solid online reputation and are continually pushing positive reviews to platforms like Google, or any other ones that might be industry specific, are really going to go. It's not a nice to have anymore. It's almost becoming essential.
Yeah, nice. Um, for sure. And even when somebody does get a negative review, the when I'm searching for a service or a product, etc., if I see 1,000 5-star reviews, that's nice. But if I see a couple like 2-star thrown in there, it gives more credence to the 5 star, I would say, because I know it's
Mm,
not, I know they're authentic, I know they're real, right? Um,
mm.
but then uh, a business responding to especially negative reviews helps maybe give better light to somebody that is just, reviewing kind of, I want to start my searches with give me the lowest reviews. What's the worst that could
Yeah.
happen? And so if I've seen they've engaged with and tried to resolve, provide a resolution, that speaks a lot more credibly to that business than if they just let the reviews go unanswered, right? Do you see that similar things? Do you instruct clients to do so? Do you handle that yourself for your clients?
I suppose yes, yes, and yes. We so
Sure.
the responding is really important, I guess, for two reasons. First and foremost, for customers, for human beings that are looking at online reputation, and you've said exactly what I think we all do, Rob. If you're making a considered purchase, okay, the 5 stars are good, but
Yeah.
let's see why those 1 stars are 1 stars.
Hmm.
So it's the personal, it's the human element first and foremost. The second point is if you are actively responding to reviews, that's a big sign of authority, certainly in Google's eyes, perhaps less so in more of the AI platforms like ChatGPT. But for good traditional SEO, responding to customer reviews in a timely fashion is a big authority tick. And generally, the rule is if you've got greater authority, you get greater visibility, and that can lead to more traffic and bookings. So I think those things are really important. I think in terms of responding to reviews, yes, we do. We've actually developed a solution within Scoreplan where you can integrate with your Google business profile, and then you can feed in all of the reviews, and then you can respond to positive reviews using a generative AI. So you can say, "Oh, thanks so much for the great review." We tend to say the negative sentiment ones, don't run it through AI. There is nothing that's going
Yeah.
to irritate already.
Hey, this is Rob Riggs, and I wanted to take just a second to tell you about Code Conspirators, our sponsor here. And we are a technology focused performance marketing agency serving professional service firms. So that's legal, medical, financial, engineering. If you take a test to do what you do for a living, we help you grow your practice with websites and apps and software and performance marketing. That's organic, paid ads, retargeting, conversion optimization. And we're also doing a whole host of things with CRM, AI, and automation that's been bringing our clients tremendous value. If you're curious at all, go to codeconspirators.com to learn more. Now back to the show.
This is a sort of an exaggeration, but there's nothing that screams AI like a few rocket emojis and those horribly long dashes. So I
Right,
think if it's obviously AI written, it's not going to do you any favors.
for sure. So we talked about kind of the AI shadow phrase that you've used a good bit. You also kind of talk a good bit about selling the steak, not the sizzle, right? You
Yeah.
want to talk us through that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously, sales 101 is, we sell the sizzle, right? Not the steak. You sell the features, not the benefits, not the features.
Right.
Whereas actually, the way in AI interpret and the way algorithms now are starting to interpret data, this idea of actually selling the features and not the benefits is really important. So as humans, we buy on emotion and we justify through logic, as the
Mm.
general phrasing goes. And so ultimately, we need to be talking about all the benefits of our product in the eyes of the customer. But in relation to how AIs are interpreting that data, they need more information and they find they will struggle to sort of equate the benefit back to the user. So let me give you a sort of a simple example. So if you're obviously I work with hotels, so let me give you a hotel example. If I'm a disabled customer and I'm wanting to book an accessible room and I want to understand how far the accessible rooms are from the restaurant because I have a disability and maybe I'm not as mobile as perhaps able-bodied people.
Sure.
So that's a very kind of niche sort of piece of information that is very relevant and very important to that customer, but is unlikely to be presented on a website. But however, when that particular customer is looking through AI and is looking for a hotel that can help with that particular need, it is much more likely to recommend that hotel because it made that feature available. Well, actually, we're only 10 feet away from the restaurant, so it allows for, whatever it is. So that's a really kind of, I suppose it's a small, but I think good example of making sure that brands are and products are sharing as much detail about their about what it is that they do as possible.
Hmm.
And this is going to, I think, expand as the technology evolves. So we all know that agentic browsing, and I think you touched on it, Rob, in terms of that ability for agents to not sort of present options back to us, but actually go the whole step and just, look, I need a restaurant. Off it goes and comes back and say, yep, you're booked in at 8 p.m. tonight. So that sort of agentic process is soon to become commonplace, we expect. It is
Yeah.
possible now in certain platforms. But to give you another working example, if my agent knows that I'm a big fan of Scotch whiskey, for the sake of argument, um, it's going to book restaurants and hotels that talk about their extensive whiskey collection as opposed to those that don't, even if the ones without the whiskey are actually a better fit for me because
Right.
it needs to know that I've briefed my agent on all the things that I'm looking for and all of my likes and dislikes and all of these things. And so it's looking to sort of marry the dot, marry those two things together. So it's really important to get as much of the features of your product onto your website and other platforms so that AIs can interpret that data.
Right. So if I'm a service provider, we're talking about here's my process that is unique, proprietary, different than any other lawyer, doctor, whatever down the street.
Mhm.
Right. This is how we do what we do. So, yeah, that's super fun. And then the when so it's any idea how far we are from the total democratization of agentic making reservations, hiring a lawyer, a plumber, etc., for the common man.
I think we're probably 18 months out. So I
Yeah,
think
okay.
it's going to happen in, 2028. It will become commonplace. At the moment, obviously, the vast majority of AI usage um, is you send out a prompt. This is what I'm looking for. Here's some options. What do you want to do next? Okay, refine those options. What do you want to do next? It's very sort of human led.
Yeah.
We're very, very close to, and look, this technology is available, but I'm talking about, has it hit a level of adoption that is to the extent where where businesses, professional service firms need to actively be thinking about it. And I think we are probably going to be at some point in the year 2028, 2027, 2028. We will, it will be mandatory to be part of your strategy because that's how customers find stuff.
For sure. And then the we see kind of the model shifting and this is where SEO was 15, 20 years ago. I'd
Mm,
say, and people are we're just on the cusp of another monumental shift.
yeah.
Is traditional SEO dead then, or how much longer does it have before those methods kind of are no longer useful?
Yeah, so I've got quite a firm stance on this, Rob. You might be pleased to hear. Um,
Sure.
I- there are search engine optimization, SEO, is obviously been around for about 15 years. The reality is that we've now got AEO and GEO and half a dozen other acronyms, and people can barely keep up. For me, the sort of the phrase or the acronym of SEO is just adapting. People that have made a living and a career in SEO and are total specialists and experts in SEO, like Rose, our head of SEO, she absolutely lives and breathes it. it's not like she's going, what am I going to do? SEO is dying. She's adapting. And I think any person selling sort of SEO in the most traditional sense, in terms of, okay, we need to stuff the website full of keywords. We need to choose our keywords that we want to rank for. It, it's just such a small part of what has to be done to maximize online visibility. And I think, SEO isn't dying. It's just incorporating about five different other disciplines. And now, if you're working with an SEO agency, the first thing you really need to be asking is, how have you adapted in the last 18 months? And if they don't have a really good answer for that, the chances are they're doing stuff that just doesn't work, and actually is probably working actively against you in terms of giving you the visibility that you're investing in.
For sure, for sure. That's fantastic. I know we're kind of running up on the clock, but if there is something that you say from stage, do you have something that like half the audience finds extremely uncomfortable? Do you have something like something else polarizing like that?
I would say, just to add some finish on some controversy, um,
Sure.
I would say, look, we need to be preparing now to be marketing to algorithms, not to people. It
Mhm.
will, if you consider that in the very near future, all signs are pointing to the common person, whether they are booking restaurants or looking for a legal firm or looking for a new accountant, whatever the requirement, they will get their agent to do the painstaking sort of research process. And if it's a small purchase like a restaurant for Friday night, they'll have them book on their behalf. If it's a much more considered purchase, okay, I'm being sued, I need a lawyer, they're probably going to not allow the agent to book that legal firm on their behalf. So
Sure.
the point is that what we used to do is we used to do marketing to get in front of our potential customers at the very start of their journey, top of funnel. Everyone started their search for anything on Google, whether you were buying a car or a can of baked beans. Now it's a case of we're going to be marketing to agents that can do the research, and we want to make sure that their agents recommend us when they kind of come to the user with their shortlist. So I think that's
Right.
probably the scary bit of my presentations that I've delivered recently.
That's super fun. Yeah, no, I love it. Like, 20 years ago, we were building websites for the human eye. And
Yeah.
then search engines became a thing, and now we have the design for both, which started incorporating like speed and mobile optimization and accessibility and some of those things like that. But now, the nature of humanity and probably AI too, we're searching for the path of least resistance. And so if a website or if a website is slow loading or if the citations don't exist for a company,
Yeah.
AI is going to give up and move on to the next, right? So it's really important to be out there. Cool.
Absolutely.
Is there anything that we haven't covered yet that you would regret saying goodbye without throwing out there?
I think we've covered a lot of ground in a very short amount of time, Rob. So I think
Sure.
we don't want to bamboozle people. I think that my parting point, I guess, would be this: the world is adapting so much. There's so much talk about AI, and you can incorporate it to streamline your operations. You can maybe get rid of personnel and have AI agents do that work. I think if we just forget, we put a blanket ban on the term or the word AI. What this is, the big change I think that is affecting every business is how customers are finding and choosing the businesses that they buy from.
Yeah.
And so forget the fact that it's, AI search. It is simply, it always used to be Google had the monopoly, 85%, 90% of all
Mhm.
search in the West. It's changing wildly. And the reality is that Google presented, you know, 10 organic links, four ads. If you're in hotels or, accommodation, then you'd be three in the hotel pack, be 20 options on page one.
Right.
Now and you have to work to figure out which ones that you're gonna actually go and search and consider. Now it's four or five. So you have to work really hard at being one of those four or five. And part of that strategy is really good SEO. And I mean SEO in the terms of, you know, complete search rather than search engines. That would be my
Right.
my parting advice.
Nice. It's search everywhere. You can still
Yes,
use the same acronym, but yeah,
definitely.
super fun. Cool. Yeah, I know. Yeah, we're probably we're beyond time, but I really appreciate the you sharing your insights, bringing your knowledge, and we'll make sure that a link to all of the things that we talked about are in the show notes, so that if anybody's interested in more info, they can get in touch. So I
Great.
appreciate you. And thanks so much. Best of luck, man. And appreciate you being on.
Great. Thanks, Rob. Really appreciate it. And just to mention that Score Plan, you can get a free report, you get a free score, free plan, no credit card required. If you go to scoreplan.ai, you get access to all of that information. So hopefully some value to be had there.
Appreciate it. Okay. We'll make sure that is available as well.
Great.
All right. All right. That was Adam Hamadache. If you were not worried previously about your AI shadow, you should be now. So here's your homework. Go to scoreplan.ai and get your free digital visibility score. You'll want to stop guessing and start measuring. Next, audit your website copy. Are you making substantive claims with proof or using vague marketing language that AI will ignore? And if you are running a professional service firm like we talked about today, your AI shadow is being shaped by review sites and directories and citations and in your Google business profile. These things, if they're not optimized, are going to impact whether you show up against those three or four competitors. So these things are fixable, but we want to make sure you are aware of what it takes to please the AI bots today. So links are in the show notes, and we will see you next episode. Thanks so much for being here.